There's two paths to ROI, one or both, either serially or in parallel, meaning at the same time. One is cut. McKinsey might say efficiency. Get more efficient. The other is create or growth. Those are the two, in my opinion, operating modes for AI that will lead us to ROI. Let's talk about cut a little bit more, because everybody right away thinks about cutting jobs. It's not necessarily about cutting jobs, obviously. I think it starts with cutting tasks, cutting workflows, cutting vendors and contractors, cutting contracts with SaaS solutions that you don't need anymore because you can replace that with AI-assisted workflows. Maybe cutting data sources that you no longer need, or consolidating data sources, or consolidating vendors. This is the potential, obviously, of AI, and we can get to these gains relatively quickly. Of course, create is, for all of us, more exciting. It's about creating new products, creating new services, creating new revenue streams, entering new markets, competing in places where you couldn't compete before.
First, at Moderna, we think of AI as a utility, so as something that everyone is going to need and use all the time. It's more a matter of when and how than if. Instead of opening it to 10 or 20 people, we opened it to the whole cohort of our full-time employees. And why? Because if this is a utility, why would you deprive anyone of it? And not to mention, let's say we are talking mobile phones or the internet, and you give it to 5 or 10 or 20 people. How valuable is it to them if they can't call anyone with it? So same thing here. How valuable is AI, let's say to a researcher, if legal is not using it and setting the guidelines, if finance is not using it and setting the budgets, if HR is not using it and ready to recognize them for their effort with AI? So the forest creates the trees. We signed for way more licenses than we had users at the time, and then we ran to enable adoption, enable proficiency around it.
If you don't have a head of AI, you need one. And the reason I think you need one now, at least, or at least over the next couple of years, is that right now, AI tends to be highly distributed amongst many people. The problem with that is that you wind up having 100 people with 1% of influence in terms of being able to make change, affect change, connect the dots between different organizations. And so it's super important to say, okay, you know what? It's time to get serious. If you're serious about AI, then you need to fund it, invest in a head of AI or someone in that role who can literally spend 100% of their time thinking about this. It's not a 50% job. It's not a 40% job. It has to be a 100% job.
I joined Novo Nordisk a little under a year ago, and I joined at a time when the organization was standing up and transforming and creating an organization that was around commercial excellence and innovation. And so I was brought in as the AI product lead who was going to bring new AI opportunities to the business. One of the things that I first did when I joined was to go on a listening tour. So I went and I started talking to the leaders across the business, whether that was marketing, sales leadership, IT leadership, legal, compliance. I wanted to sort of get a sense of the maturity of AI. How were people feeling about embracing it, using it? Where were they using it already today? And then the other thing I did was to stand up a SharePoint site where I co-author every other week a blog about AI, something that's going on in the industry, an AI trend, something I think the employee base should know about and be educated on. And again, the whole premise is to get the resistance to come down, get the fear to go away so that they can hopefully adopt.
But first ROI is your team behavior. So I will give you an example. Recently, what I was working with, primary market researcher, and they had a plethora of information, and they wanted a co-pilot thing, like something that will enable them to find insight from these 1,000 documents. But today it takes like 40 hours or sometimes like more than that to find all the details or reads into multiple documents. So what they do, they turn down many of the requests. Now that's the pain area, but it can help them to save that 40 hours and make it 5 to 10 minutes. Huge difference. So what will happen? You may not immediately see the dollar difference, but what will happen? People will start asking. That's the ROI. That's the team behavior.
the global corporate world have, in my opinion, made a serious mistake. And this is a crisis. And the mistake is they think AI is software like any other enterprise software, like an ERP or a CRM, and they buy it, it's always easy to buy software, and they deploy it like other AI or other software deployments. They do a training month, they do a few all hands meetings, they turn on some access to some online training and expect this just to kind of race to 50, 60, 70% adoption and active usage. This is not software. This is not enterprise software. It doesn't behave like software. It's co-intelligence that is magical and clownish in its behavior, meaning it makes mistakes and also does incredible things at the same time. It takes a lot of change management. It takes a lot of support. It takes effort to lower the anxiety that is in the workforce. It takes effort to show people how to use this co-intelligence in their own job and in their teams' projects and workflows. This is not enterprise software, guys. If you buy it and deploy it like you bought and deployed a CRM and an ERP, I think you're going to be very disappointed. This is what's happening. This is why enterprise adoption is flatlining.
So if you start thinking about AI, a lot of people think, oh, innovation, the edge of innovation. We have to create things that are incredible. So that's really important. But at the same time, you have to raise the floor of proficiency, right? So we started with that because like I mentioned before, all the productivity that you get from the aggregate of all of the team members using it and becoming more productive. Even if some of the use cases are not necessarily at the beginning, bringing all of the business results that you're expecting, right? In your ROI journey, I would say you have to, it's people metrics first, right? Proficiency, engagement, people participating. Then you start looking into, okay, what are the workflows that I can start automating that have productivity ROI and things like that. And those workflows actually going to get you to the business impact that you want, right? We talked about that. Prompting, building simple agents, GPTs, those type of things. Quality and productivity. That's individual proficiency, level 1. Level 2, you can start thinking about workflows. So the next one is when these workflows become like true enterprise orchestration.
So like I use a simple litmus test and it is a 3 simple word. I call it stop, easy, stick. And let me unpack a little bit. So it is like a gut check or test even before you build anything. First thing is, are we asking what is the one thing user is going to stop it when you bring this product? Because you are removing a friction. And if you're not doing it, that is the first test to fail. Then second thing is, are we making it easy for them to adopt it or making it easy for their to use it? If again that is not yes or maybe, then maybe or no is like a doubt that it is not a good idea. And the third important thing, anybody is going to use it after a pilot or demo, the 15 days, 30 days. So if I don't get these answers very concretely yes, then probably we are not ready.
When somebody comes with an AI idea, the 3 ways are, is there strategic alignment? So, does the idea directly support a business objective? So that's sort of number 1. Number 2, the regulatory and compliance feasibility. And then there's the technical feasibility. So can this be built? So those are sort of 3 criteria checkpoints. There has to be, a strong business case that aligns to the business strategy as a whole.
We follow the core principle. It's eliminate, simplify, and automate, right? And that's guiding our internal transformation and operational efficiencies. The first step for anyone out there who wants to do something like this is eliminate unnecessary processes. The next step is radically simplify what remains. The third is automate everything you can and embed AI whenever possible.
So we have both an intake form in terms of people that want to start AI projects that are not already covered. And we also have an outtake form. And so the outtake form is like, all right, show me the money, show me what you did. So in one example, there was one project that cut manual review time by 90% that saves teams hours each week. There's a SQL validator assistant that somebody created that reduced validation time by 90%, saving 9 hours a week. An ops assistant saves a team 250 hours per week across teams.
Let's take this simple example. You take a meeting transcript and you ask, how did I come through in this meeting based on the transcript? Who might have been upset by my remarks? Who might have been insensitive to? Did I cut anyone off when they were speaking? How could I have shown better presence? What is the next and best version of me in a meeting like this? What do you advise for me to do in the next meeting, and how should I show up in the next meeting? There, you're not using the meeting minutes for just the bullet points about tasks and efficiency and so on. You're using it as a source of real-world evidence for growth. So this onboards something. Suddenly, you're a better person. And the coach doesn't hallucinate. There's no such thing as a coach hallucinating. It guides you from the data you give it, and then you have a reflection, a soul searching, and the code doesn't judge you. It's not judgmental, and you land into what I would call a transitional system of intelligence, right? That both offloads things and offers new things.
We are not trying to calculate holistic ROI across the company. What we're trying to do is focus on those individual deployments. We have built a very strong culture around custom GPTs. I think that they're still probably one of the most underrated AI features that you can deploy into an organization. So we built a really strong culture around that. We have hundreds and hundreds of GPTs across our company. And again, like, we just try to get really focused on those deployments that are making a big difference. And what we try to do is measure what the before and after state is. One example was a GPT that drives discovery call bookings. It helped us identify more relevant prospects. It helped us have more meaningful conversations to help drive those discovery calls. And what we did was we built the GPT. We looked at what is our typical conversion rate on discovery calls for our outreach efforts and before, and then we looked at what was it after 3 months after deployment. And in that first 3 months, it grew discovery call bookings by 60%. And then over the subsequent months after that, it continued to double over. So that's really interesting. And then the discovery call itself isn't going to tell you anything about the overall outcome, but what you can start to do is put a value to that. Like, we know what the average value, we know what the average conversion rate is for a discovery call. We can segment that out by industry, by customer, right? So like, we have a really good data that tells us if we get on a discovery call with this type of customer, our bookings is X%. So then we can start to put a value on the discovery call. So if we're driving that by 60% and then by 60% again, we can project a value that has to us.
How I look at AI adoption in general, I look at it through these 6 lenses. And you and I talked about this about a month ago, which is consistency, intensity, creation, impact, breadth, and whether somebody has a Prof AI certification or not. Consistency, which is the days with at least one AI session across, whether it be Gemini, LogicQ, take your pick. Intensity is the amount of work that's pushed through AI. So that's on a conversation, message, and interaction basis. And so one of the bellwether metrics I look at in terms of AI adoption is number of messages per conversation. So there's creation, right? Creating an assistant is one thing. Impact is, will other people, have I created enough value for myself that I can share this with other people? Breadth is another one. So breadth, which is to say, okay, how do I transfer across context? So whether that means in the case of Google Docs, Sheets, Notebook, Google Videos, Gemini, and then Prof AI, I will gladly have an experience of a workforce that is role, context, task, output, boundaries, and reasoning trained over those who are not.
ChatGPT Enterprise, Gemini, Copilot, right? Those are on average face price $30 per person per month. That is the price of a lunch. So I say to leaders who are listening to us, come on, offer lunch to your people, right? Like, it's $30 per person per month. What do you have to lose? Focus on the users and the money will follow. Because of course, I'm not saying sacrifice and forget return on investment. I'm saying believe in this case, because the investment is so low and the return is so obvious. Believe in your people and take a leap of faith.
You lay the foundation of your AI ROI with workforce augmentation. You buy, deploy, and support, meaning with coaching and change management, the whole organization, everyone in the knowledge workforce to be able to use high quality AI. We're in this together. We're ready to go.